TuxJam, combining Linux news with Creative Commons goodness.
Hello, Happy New Year and welcome to TuxJam number 48. So, I am Kevie, I'm joined as always by Andrew. How are you today, Andrew?
I'm very well, thank you, Kevie.
And on this show, we're going to have a wee look at a few applications. We don't have a distro to review, but we do have a special guest who's going to come on to talk about something particularly Linuxy, in fact. So it is kind of, in a sense, a distro review, but it's a distro review plus. So yeah, so that's coming up ahead. So we'll also be looking at andstatus on the mobile. And I am also going to be looking at two apps I've been playing about with, and that's Nixnote 2 and Liferea, both desktop apps. Right, so before we do that, we're going to get back to our usual format. We'll go straight into looking at Linux distros that are out this week.
Yes, indeed. And so the first one, looking at the page of DistroWatch tonight, that caught my eye, is a distro I've never heard of before. It's called Kwort, Kwort. It doesn't seem to come with KDE, which you might think, given that it starts with the letter K. And it's based on, it says Crux-based distribution. I've not even heard of Crux. Have you heard of Crux, Kevie?
It does ring a bell, but I cannot remember it off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure I have heard the name Crux before in Linux distros, but it's not something I've tried, let's put it that way. I think we may have mentioned it in the past, or I've just noticed it in the past. But no, certainly not one I've had any experience with.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking from the description, there's not all that much detail in the description in DistroWatch. It mentions its package manager is KPKG, K-Package, which sounds again a bit like they've come from KDE land where everything starts with the letter K. It's got Lyonn Grub 2, the bootloaders. Yeah, it tells you what bootloaders it uses and what its package manager is called, but the DistroWatch description doesn't tell you much else. Oh, well, I might head over to that distro's page and give it a try, just because I've never heard of it before.
That might be an interesting one to look at for next time, so we may have found a new distro to try out. Now, the next one that I'm looking at is one that's kind of on the fringe. It's maybe one of the slightly better known of the lesser distros, and that's Kali Linux, which I think I can't remember that I tried briefly, but I have kind of toyed with the notion of installing it before. Well, I'm saying installing it. It does tend to be on Live Medium. It's a pen testing distro. So, but this one, however, seems to have been. I was just reading the notes here, and it has actually been modified slightly to run well on the Raspberry Pi. I assume it's Raspberry Pi 2. But that's certain one. So it's Debian based, and it comes with a variety of pen testing tools. So one of these ones, if you're into that kind of thing, well worth a look.
And then the next one on the list is one that I actually use and found quite useful, and I used it today. It's called Gparted Live, and it's a Debian-based distro with live distro. It says a live CD, but these days, I put it I've got it in a USB stick that I take with me and occasionally whip out and use it to fix broken computers of all sorts. And it comes with like disk management, data rescue type utilities, and I do find it very handy. But today it failed me because it just wouldn't start on my son's new PC. And what I wanted to do, I actually had a hard drive, external USB hard drive. I wanted to copy some files off it onto that machine, but the USB hard drive was formatted with Linux X partition, and that machine upstairs has only got Windows on it as yet. I haven't yet got around to putting a Linux distro on it for my son, and Windows won't read, obviously, a Linux formatted drive, so I thought I would start up Gparted and use that to copy across, because Gparted can, of course, read sort of NTFS Windows partitions. But it wouldn't work. Something about the NVIDIA graphics card sorry, it's not NVIDIA, it's ATI. Something about the ATI graphics card, it just didn't like, and Slackware Live got a bit further, but still didn't start it up. But I hadn't been using the latest distribution release. I hadn't realised there was a release today of Gparted, otherwise I might have tried that.
Well, there you go, for next time. Right, the next one is Xtix Linux, and this is 16.1. Now, I don't normally mention Ubuntu-based distros. However, this caught my eye purely because it features the desktop environment LXQT. Now, for those of you that don't know, there's the LXDE desktop environment, and there's the Razer Qt, which was kind of based on KDE, but it was like a stripped-down Qt version of KDE, kind of for lightweight. And this was a merger of the two. So it's something I tried in its early infancy stage, and it was just too unreliable to use, certainly regularly. So this is another one of these things that I really do want to get around to trying a slightly more mature. I'm not expecting it to be fully developed yet, but certainly more mature version of the LXQT desktop.
Yes, I haven't really tangled much with LXQT, but I do like the sound of it. The next one that I like the look of was Chaos, K-A-O-S, and this time the K definitely does stand for KDE, and they go straight into trumpet that they have KDE Plasma 5 desktop in their latest distro. You don't call it KDE 5, you call it KDE Plasma 5. I use KDE, but I just get the way they keep splitting things up and calling them Plasma this and whatever that. So I don't quite know what that means. And the framework's 5 and Plasma 5, and they both have different minor version numbers. Anyway, so it seems that KDE doesn't have a version number. It's the frameworks and Plasma bit and applications bit that have. Oh goodness, KDE applications 15.12.1. Is that a typo? I don't know. I'm very confused. Anyway, Chaos. If you like KDE, you might be interested in trying that.
Yes, indeed. And Chaos, I believe, it used to be Arch-based. Now it's independent-based. So to be honest, given they've been a while and the independent-based stuff been doing their own, I don't know how big Chaos is, but I can't imagine it's got a huge team working for it. So for them, I mean, you may think, it's a bit late to the game, but you've got to remember as well, it is a smaller distro, so it's just good that they've actually kept on going and kept on updating it, kept on plugging away, because even with the slightly bigger distros, how many of them are still on KDE 4 point something? So it's good to see that.
Yes, indeed it is, yes. And I would imagine most distros are going to move to KDE 5 or Plasma 5 or whatever you want to call it.
Yes, indeed. Right then, so before our next guest, he's just coming in. I've heard the car pulling up. He's got to get himself comfy, get a cup of tea, so we'll give him some time for that. And while we're waiting, the next track is Adventure by Madelyniris.
I drove 10 hours just to see you, just to relive where my heart was, just to face what I have missed, what 5 years' time has done to us. We grow old, our faces change, our minds and hearts have been rearranged, our bodies tied with the coming age. Our days are numbered and we're not getting any younger, so why not come alive with me tonight? We can go on an adventure and swear we'll never forget these summer nights. Although my days may fade away, the
And we're now joined by a special guest. And this special guest is on because he was a very lucky person. And I was there to witness this great stroke of luck. So we have with us Dave Morris, also known as Perloid and Perlist in various places. Welcome, Dave. How are you?
Hi there. I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for making me a special guest. I hadn't realised I was quite that special. It's nice.
Hey, let's be honest. Anybody that gets a guest on this show is pretty special because we really haven't had hardly any guests outside of the two of us.
Yes. Special by definition. So, would you like to explain to our listeners exactly how you got lucky at Oggcamp?
Well, it was like this. I was at Oggcamp 15 or 2015, however you say it, and as always, I entered the raffle as you do, because it's an important thing. It helps towards the funding, and usually I go along to watch people winning things at the bit at the end where the raffle tickets are called and so forth. And I was completely and utterly stunned to find that I'd won something, and what's more, I was the star winner and won a laptop. That was it was almost heart attack time, I think. I nearly had to be stretchered down to collect it.
Yes, I do remember that you looked you didn't look all that pleased. You looked like, oh, not me. Well, I'm sure you were pleased with the result.
Well, yes, but being a sort of lifetime keeper out of the limelight, to suddenly be called upon to be in the limelight, it just didn't feel right. It shouldn't be me. It should be somebody else who deserves it more. So strange reaction, but there you go.
I know, but having not been there, the kind of image I'm getting right now is like, it's everybody being called to do the bungee jump, and you were first. No, please, not me.
It sort of felt like that in an odd sort of way, but anyway, yes. So I won a rather nice laptop as a consequence.
And so, can you tell us a little bit about the laptop? What kind of what does it's from a company called Entroware. I remember that much, but can you tell us what model it is and give us an idea of the specs?
Yes. As you say, it was Entroware who were there demonstrating their various products and so forth, and had donated the Star Prize. And the Star Prize was the model called Kratos, Kratos, and it's a Core i3 machine, the 2.5 gigahertz processor. Quite a fair bit of RAM in it, 8 gigs and 120 gig SSD. And it's got 15.6 inch screen, so it's really quite a nice little thing. It's not a small laptop; it's a fairly chunky one, but it's very pretty.
What about the weight? You said about it being not small. Is it very heavy? Is it kind of designed to carry around, or is it the kind of one that we designed to sit on a table?
It's my son, who's got a MacBook, said, "Oh, it's actually quite heavy" when he tried it. But compared to the old HP that I have, which is my daughter's, it's a lightweight compared to that. I don't actually have the weight. It might be on the website, but it's definitely luggable. But it's not the lightest machine in the world. Let's put it that way.
Right. So it's got Linux on it. Sorry, Andrew. I'll let you talk.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say it's got Linux on it and it's got Ubuntu. I believe it's Ubuntu or Ubuntu Mate.
No, it's straight Ubuntu with Unity, and yes, it's come with that. It's the 1510 Wily Werewolf, and it must have been the sort of standard script installation, so that it was just ready to configure as you switched it on the first time, But shall I tell you a bit more about the hardware? I was quite intrigued to find that it's got a NVIDIA card in it, and it's also got onboard graphics. I'm not really much of a laptop aficionado, so I was surprised that laptops came with two types of graphics. It actually switches itself into the onboard graphics by default, because that's cheaper to run, but you can switch on the NVIDIA stuff when you want to, which I've I've only recently done, I have to say. And it's also got quite an interesting feature, which is it's got a number of USB 3 ports and one USB 2. It's got three USB 3s and one USB 2. But one of the USB 3s also got an eSATA capability, which again I've not seen. So I thought that was quite. And it comes with a DVD rewriter, which again is a thing I wouldn't have expected in a modern laptop. So pretty good machine for a Linux geek, I would have thought.
What about the build quality? Overall, does it feel sturdy?
Yes, it does feel quite nice actually. It's got it's a plastic case, but it's got a metal looking finish. It looks like a sort of brushed metal type of finish. So it's actually quite good looking, and it feels very solid and robust. It does feel like a very good quality machine to my feelings anyway.
And the other thing I was wondering is, Entroware obviously are quite into their Linux. I don't think they sell machines with Windows preloaded. That's kind of their thing, isn't it?
That's right.
But is there anything about the laptop itself that you feel they've customized to be more Linux friendly, other than obviously presumably they choose the hardware to be Linux compatible or as far as possible? But is there anything else that you've noticed that hardware wise, in terms of how they built it, that would give you an indication that they had Linux in mind?
I didn't particularly notice that, I have to say. I looked at it and pondered that point today, in fact, wondering what there was in particular. I mean, it's as you say, it is obviously tailored for running Linux. And really the main addition is they put a Ubuntu sticker on the Windows key, which I think is a nice thing. You can actually request the type of key you have, if depending on what version of the operating system you get. I notice on the website.
Well, that's nice, because I'm using the Windows key, as many people do in Mumble, as my push-to-talk key. But yes, it'd be nicer if there was something else on it, like a Slackware logo in my case. Yeah,
I thought that was a nice touch. So yeah, it is obviously really compatible with Linux. I mean, I've had no troubles with it. The Wi-Fi works great. I tend to use a sort of desktop guy, really, so I keep it on the desk at the moment, and it's connected to Ethernet. It's got a 1 gigabit Ethernet, as you'd expect, I guess, and all of that works fine. The camera works fine. All of those sorts of things that you might have had difficulty with in the past just seem to work. No difficulty whatsoever. Just install Ubuntu and there you go, you know.
Just out of curiosity, I'm going to spring a question on you here. It's one I've just thought of. Was there any specific or maybe odd kind of more niche software applications on it that maybe wouldn't be on a standard install of Ubuntu? Do you know?
I didn't find anything particular. I didn't go looking for that, I have to say. I did. I built a desktop machine myself, which has got an NVIDIA graphics card in it. And when I installed Debian on it, it didn't have the NVIDIA interface software, which is not a default. However, this machine, I simply typed NVIDIA when searching for software, and up came the application that let me go and actually switch on the card in this particular case. So, you know, those sorts of things seem to have been thought out quite nicely.
Oh, I think actually I heard your cat meowing in the background there.
Yeah. I've got such a sensitive microphone, the cat could be in the next room and you'd probably hear it. Yes, she wants to go out, I think. My daughter's here, she's dealing with her.
Okay, that's fine. My next question was, would you consider installing another Linux distro on it? Would you want to?
Well, personally, I probably would. I probably will, actually. It is nice to have a machine that just delivers Ubuntu straight off, but I have to say I'm not wildly enamored of Ubuntu. is partly because I have used Ubuntu quite a long time, and Kubuntu. I'm a KDE user largely, and I've just got a little bit fed up with the whole business of, upgrading twice a year and sometimes falling into a big dark hole as a consequence, and having to do the nuke and pave type approach to it. So I'm currently using Debian testing on my desktop machine, and although there's been a few surprises along the way, it does seem to have been a more stable. Well, stable is maybe not the word, but it just means there aren't such big impediments, big hurdles to jump every so often. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do as a Debian user. That's one of the big things that make me keep using it, coming back to it. I like the Ubuntu derivatives. I'm not an overly big fan of Unity personally, but that's down to taste. But the fact that Debian offers continuous rolling type of updates, to me, makes it much better. But have you had any dealings, getting back to Entroware for a minute, have you had any dealings with them? Did you have to phone up technical help or customer support or customer service, anything like that with them?
No, I haven't had any dealings with them at all. Obviously, I had a chat with the guy who was there, who I think was the sort of front man from Entroware was there, actually handing over the laptop, and he said, you get support with it, and so send us your details, which I've done, but I've not actually had to speak to them or heard anything more from them, in fact. So but I did get the impression that if I had issues, then they would be pretty responsive.
So that leads on to my next question then. Would you recommend Entroware to a fellow Linux user?
I think I would. I went and had a chat to them at Oggcamp, and was just asking them, how long they'd been around. I should have recorded it for HPR. I'm really sad I didn't do that. But I was just so delighted to see somebody selling Linux PCs, because there are not many who do. I think it's fair to say. Piece of personal history. Back in 2008, I bought a Linux desktop machine. There was a company called Efficient PC based in London who were in the same sort of market that Entroware are in now, who seem to be doing really well in setting up to sell Linux machines, but they didn't last more than a couple of years, sadly. Maybe they were too early into the game, but Entroware has a look of somebody who really knows what they're doing. It was my feeling, a gut feeling anyway, and so consequently, I would recommend them from that point of view. Plus, also they do seem to be producing some pretty good machines. Okay, they're a little bit more expensive than perhaps what you would get if you went to the high street, but then you are getting something that's been tailored for Linux. And having built a machine myself in the past couple of years, you really want to put a fair bit of money towards the components, so you get something which is A, compatible, and B, solid and reliable. And who knows what's in some of the modern machines that you buy on the high street. So from those points of view, I would definitely recommend them.
And you kind of preempted my final question, given that you're very involved in Hacker Public Radio. Have you done an HPR episode about it yet? And if not, why not?
I thought that was yes. You gave me warning of that question. Thank you very much for that. And it really made me think. No, I haven't done an HPR show about it. Why haven't I? I think I was. Well, the real answer, of course, is I was giving you guys first refusal. I didn't want to agree to come and talk about it here, and then you'd find that there was a show on HPR. That didn't seem right, Or alternatively, I just never thought of it.
Well, we'll go with the first answer.
Commons licensed. We have no restrictions on what you want to do at all.
No. I think I might well do something on HPR in due course. I do have an enormous queue of things that are sort of partly done and ideas and so forth. But it's in there now. It's in that list.
So we've added more to your to-do list.
Well, it's the way of the world. I'm happy about that.
Well, do you have any more questions for Dave, Andrew, before he has to shoot off?
No, I think that was it. Thanks very much for joining us, Dave. Very interesting to hear about Entroware, and I'll certainly be looking over their wares. I'm maybe in the market for a Steam box, perhaps, for me and my son to do some gaming on, and I noticed they had one at Oggcamp, so yeah.
Yes,
thanks for the recommendation.
Nice. It looked nice, didn't it? Yeah. Well, thanks for inviting me on. It's been fun.
No, thanking you, and hopefully we'll speak to you again soon. If not here, then at least on HPR.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
And now, before we get on with the next part of the show, let's have another tune. So this is The Only Son by Grey Heron.
Truth to shine is in our dreams. We want to fly. There's no time for our own growth. 'Cause I'm the only son, so pray for us time. Because we're all just stop abusing life. 'Cause greed is only riding the shadows run. Sanity. Forests hate to be alive. 7 ways to live the day until we've rolled to reach the night. There's always someone going round telling how to live our lives. With troubles fighting somewhere high, and we might fear to fall. There's no time for our own growth. 'Cause I'm the only son, so pray for us time. Because we're all to stop abusing life. Greed is only riding the shadows round. It's only shadows roll. It's only a shadows roll. The shadows roll. Cause I'm the
welcome back, folks. So, next up we have Kevie reviewing something called Nick's Note 2. So I presume this is some kind of note-taking app.
Oh man, how did you guess that? Yeah, quite impressive. Right, well, to be honest, I would not have been using this had it not been for the Ubuntu phone, to be perfectly honest. Because the Ubuntu phone comes with a Notes app, and it does say at the start, all notes backed up to the cloud, is synced instantly once you have a data connection, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, I was using it for a while, and I thought, I wonder what the heck they sync it to. So I went into it and looked a wee bit more. That's the beauty of open source. Having a look where it was syncing back to. Now, it's not actually public. It doesn't seem to be that public. But if you dig around a wee while, you do realize that it's just a front end and a GUI for Evernote, which is just basically as it sounds. It's note syncing. Well, that's all I use it for. And I was thinking, rather than logging into Evernote all the time through the computer, let's see if they've got an app. Yes, they do, but not for Linux. Okay, there's no official app, so let's try this. So I tried a couple, and Nick's Note 2 seemed to be the one that, well, basically it was the one that worked. I didn't get any from the repos, from the Debian repos, but I got Nick's Note 2 to work pretty quickly. So it didn't require a lot of dependencies, and it worked pretty sharp. Now, the initial thing, if I went on, initial reactions, it was, ugh. So, first of all, looking at it, well, it's not hideously ugly. It just needs a wee bit of TLC. It's not hideously ugly. It's not pretty either, certainly. Maybe could do with a makeover. Initially, when you log in, it doesn't actually offer you any, say, sync with add your account, anything like that. It just leaves you, and you're sitting staring at a blank screen. You're going, what do I do? So after a wee bit, I figured out how to sign into my account. Wasn't immediately obvious. That's certainly something that needs to be improved. And then when you finally start, you honestly believe this thing has crashed. Boy, it takes ages. It syncs up everything, but it really takes an awful long time. Now I'm thinking, is my internet connection gone? No, because while it was syncing, I was able to watch a YouTube video and play some tracks in Jamendo without any stuttering or buffering. So I was thinking, okay, it's not my internet connection. So it was a really, really bad start. And I thought, oh, this isn't going to go well. Then it kind of got a bit stranger. By default, it looks kind of like initially, like very much like a slightly old-fashioned email client. So you've got everything, and you've got the preview pane in the bottom, stuff all at the top. But the oldest ones are first, and it shows you the oldest note first by default, which I thought was very strange. However, just clicking on the date created, it flips that round. So I just thought it was a strange default. It's got a text editor. You don't need to, when you click on it, you don't need to click onto edit mode or anything. It automatically goes into edit mode, which is quite nice. And it's got basic text editing tools. So they are basic. I mean, it's got things like copy, paste. You can make things bold, italic, underline, strike through. You can make them superscript, subscript. You can change the alignment. All just kind of the basic stuff. You can make things like bullet points, or you can make a number list. So it's just like a very, very simple word processing options is what you get. Now, as far as once you get beyond my initial dislikes, this is actually a very functional piece of software. It's synced no problem. In fact, it seemed to sync for me once I got it set up. Again, that was another oddity. The syncing is not set to automatic. Otherwise, you have to click manually and click on the sync button. But you can set it to sync, and you can set it to sync after you've edited, after a period of time, or you can just set it if you've got a period of no character changes, no input. So it's got all these, and these are really handy features. One thing I really wish is that these would all come in at the start to say, right, initial setup, add your account. Okay. Right, how do you want this displayed? Like that. How often do you want it synced? Okay. So, as far as all the initial setup, it was a bit strange. But once you got that, the functionality, everything, I mean, even syncing, once it had done its initial sync, everything else was fine. it seemed to speed up, run quite quickly, and also runs very nicely. I was typing up something on the phone, it backs up automatically, it syncs automatically, and next thing it appeared, within only seconds on my desktop app. So, like I said, if you like Evernote, you use Evernote, it's not going to be, I doubt, the best, but it's certainly very functional. Doesn't look the prettiest, but it does the job.
That sounds quite handy, and the syncing is automatic and fairly instantaneous by the sounds of it.
It is if you set it up to be that way. By default, it's not. By default, this is what I mean. The settings by default are strange. If you don't touch your settings, well, obviously you need to set up an account at some point. Otherwise, it's just a rather limited word processor. But to set it up, you just use default settings. You have to hit the sync button. There is a button up at the top. You have to hit that, which I find that a bit annoying by default. I'd rather it just syncs. Like I've got it to sync every 2 minutes or something. So, because I'm not editing them that quickly that I need it now. But you can set it for every second.
Yeah, every second might be a bit overkill, especially if it's a single user device. Then manual updating makes some sense, I suppose. It's not as if you need to check. Oh, did I update something in the last second on another device? If you're the only person using it.
Yes, indeed. And I think from the way it's designed, it's not really designed it's not an Etherpad. It's not one where you would have multiple users. I think it's really designed for you to have notes, you to write notes, etc., and then grab them easily and have them across all your devices. But I must admit, it's something that I've never really thought of using before. I mean, I've kind of used Etherpads and things in the past. That's not been a problem. That's when usually I've shared. But I have found it's actually been very useful. And the other thing, and I don't know why I didn't do this, to be honest, because every time I used to change my Android phone, I'd lose all my notes. Whereas now, what I notice is there's an Evernote app for the Android tablet, which I've still got. I use that. Works perfectly with the Ubuntu phone, which also works perfectly with the Linux desktop, my Debian desktop here. So it is really a really handy tool. It's one that syncs up nicely.
That's good. So it's one that you would recommend with some caveats.
Oh yes, I mean, don't expect this is not all singing, all dancing, bells and whistles. It does have some bells and whistles, but they're a bit rusty and need a bit of polishing up. So I think did you ever see the film Down Periscope?
No, I haven't seen that.
No, Kelsey Grammer, and it's like they've got an old submarine, and this is what I think suits us perfectly. She may not be the belle of the ball, but she might turn one or two heads. I think that's probably what sums this one up quite nicely.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Right, so any other questions on that before we head off to the next tune?
No, I think it is time for some music.
Very good. So this is Empty Bed with Lyonn.
You can't be replaced.
Now, anyone would think we didn't talk over the festive period, so we're not going to do this one again, but this time I'm going to shut up for a wee while Andrew talks about the andstatus app on the Android mobile phone. So, take it away.
Yes, so I've been, since I first came onto Identica, which is, how long would that be? I don't know, 2008 maybe? I'll lose track. It's a good number of years ago. And I very quickly discovered the Mustard app, which at that time was the way to interact with StatusNet and Identica as the main server was then. And I've used Mustard ever since, and even after Identica has gone, at least it's not StatusNet anymore. In fact, StatusNet is gone. Really, it's now GNU Social. I've stuck with Mustard. Now, I have occasionally tried other apps, and I've tried using the web interface, but Mustard, even though it's no longer developed or even updated, as the different Android versions have come out, it still basically works. Works on Android 4. I just kept on using it. Now, I did try some other apps, and the only one that I thought, oh, hello, this looks rather good, was andstatus, but I stopped using it, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but because it was some time ago, it was a year or two ago. I just felt, oh look, actually, it's very nice. It's got lots of things that Mustard doesn't do, but it doesn't have Mustard simplicity. I actually just miss using Mustard. So it was a very sort of human, personal thing, not a very logical thing at all. Anyway, I was chatting away to somebody on GNU Social using Mustard. I forget who it was, and we both happened to mention. Oh, I remember it was CM Hobbs. That's who it was, and I happened to mention we mentioned to each other that we used andstatus but couldn't quite get into it, and the @andstatus user in the GNU Social Fediverse noticed this and asked me, what was not so simple about it? In a fairly nice way, obviously looking for feedback. And I said, well, I just explained what I just said. I thought Mustard was somehow simpler. I don't really know what it was. Could have been I was just more familiar with Mustard, really. Anyway, I said I would give andstatus a try and get back to the developer. So I did. And actually, the second time round, I'm liking andstatus more. And for the last week, I've hardly used Mustard and deliberately and quite happily used andstatus. So what can I do that I couldn't do before? Well, I'm finding a lot more conversations seem to be connected together. There was one user, I think it was Rebecca Catalina. I think she may be using it on Friendica or another network that federates with GNU Social. And anyway, Mustard, bizarrely, would show me her messages with her avatar, but wouldn't give the handle. And when I tried to reply, it just said then nothing, so obviously I didn't think the reply was going to get back to her. andstatus coped with that a little bit better in that it showed the avatar and it didn't show the handle, Rebecca Catalina, whatever it was. It showed @user ID and then some numbers, which at least let me send a reply, which she got, and then she replied back. So that worked, which was good. So Mustard, that didn't work. So andstatus has received obviously some love in getting over all the hurdles of the imperfect federated GNU Social Fediverse, which is good. Its conversation view is quite good. It's quite busy. It's got lots of lines. You can tell who replied to who. That's a sort of a bit of an improvement over Mustard as well. But I would still say the original criticism that I made, that there's still, because of all of its extra functionality and features and highlighting, etc., it does feel a bit busier on a small screen. Now, I say a small screen, I've got an Nexus 4, so it's a big screen as phone goes, but it just feels busy, lots of highlighted links and this and that going on. Other quirks, like I quite like the reply all feature. But when I went to reply all, it replied to everybody that, not in the conversation, like I expected it to reply to the 2 users that I was in this conversation with. It replied to everybody who happened to be on that page of my timeline, if you like, which I thought was a bit odd. Now, maybe that was a bug, or maybe it was me doing something odd, I don't know. So that was a bit weird, but the reply all feature was good. I like that. Other slight niggle is when I want to see mentions, that is, people who've mentioned me, sent a message with intention of me seeing it, I have to do sort of 2 clicks through to get to that, whereas on Mustard I don't think I do. And it actually took me a little while to figure out that I had to get to my mentions, I had to first, let's see, let's just open it up here. Yeah, I have to go into home, then I have to click on home again, and then mentions. So it's actually 3 clicks, taps on the phone, where it was 2 in Mustard. In fact, in the old days of Mustard, there was a time when it was just 1. So Mustard got a bit more complicated there too. So other than that, yeah, I quite like andstatus, and I think I will continue using it. It's rather good. I'm sure there's a few more things I'm going to discover, and I'll maybe drop a note to the developer on the wiki, or not the wiki, the log of bugs, etc., as I find them.
Yes, the days of apps when I used to have them. How I remember them well. So, yes, the next time you're speaking, maybe you could hint, nudge, get them to consider andstatus on the Ubuntu phone, because right now there is nothing for the GNU Social at all, so it's just a case of me going on the web browser and going that way. But no, I'm glad that you've actually got something that's been updated, because Mustard was good. The biggest problem with it is it's really not been updated since Identica split up and moved on to Pump.io backend, and the Fediverse has moved on a wee bit from then. So you're right, it's not that functional anymore. I mean, it does the basics. You'll see your timeline, you can reply to most in your timeline, and you can post, but that's pretty much it. The one thing I will say that Mustard does seem to have over an awful lot of the apps that are designed, probably Twitter first, then GNU Social as an aftermath, is that a lot of them, including Twitter, which we looked at a few months back, seem to want to limit your characters to 140 characters. Is there any such problems with andstatus at all?
No, indeed not. No, in fact, another thing about andstatus is it does support Twitter. It does support GNU Social, obviously, with no character limit. I mean, FragDev, which we're on, has a character limit of 1140, and I was quite happily able to post all the way up there, and it recognised FragDev's server's character limit as being 1140, which is good as well. It could also work with Pump.io as well. So, yeah, no problems there at all. Oh, and we should mention that Twitter looks set to abandon its 140 character limit. In fact, it already has in China, I read today.
Okay, so you're telling me if I want to have loads of characters in Twitter, I've got to set up a China proxy now?
Well, yes, I suppose. But no, I think that the change is coming to the rest of the world for Twitter as well.
Oh, very good. Very good. Mind you, I suppose with today's data connections and today's data plans, maybe the 140 characters is a bit redundant.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, there's still some people in GNU Social, in particular on Quitter.se, who stick with the 140 character limit. And there's a few people who do get slightly annoyed, us on servers, with our longer character limit. But to be honest, I do think the 140 character limit is just a giant pain, and it's a pain in Twitter too. Yes, Twitter might lose some of its uniqueness as a result of this, but to be honest, I don't think that's happened on GNU Social at all. I think it's quite nice to be able to bend the rules and go up to a higher number of characters, even though most of what I post there is probably under the 140 character limit.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, just because it's got a bigger character limit, if you're that determined to stick to 140 characters, you can stick to it. That's a freedom of choice. Yeah, so it looks like you're having quite a success then with andstatus.
Yes, I'll certainly give it a go. I mean, I'm a little bit loath to say goodbye to Mustard completely, because I've been with it for so long. I mean, it is probably the one app, is the longest Yeah, I haven't used any other app on my phone for longer than that. Maybe apart from Gmail, but then Gmail has changed so much. The Gmail app
K9?
changed.
I think I'd probably use K9 longer than Mustard. But
Well,
I still have K9 on my tablet, but to be honest, I don't use it anymore.
well, that's a good point because K9 originally was the Gmail app. Technically, wasn't it? It was when Gmail, I think, forked it. It was the original email app on Android. Now, maybe the email app was always separate from Gmail, or maybe they were the same back in the early days. I can't quite remember.
I don't think they were entirely the same. The only reason I'm telling you this is because I remember Fab at the time when I first got the Android phone. Fab on Linux Outlaws was really bumming up Android, the basic email. So it might have been Fortran, but I'm not sure. But I remember I said to him, the email client's quite good, but try K9. It's brilliant. And I don't know why he seemed to take objection to this, and I got a few expletives in my response and said, there's nothing wrong with the Android app, blah, 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 blah. But then actually, I remember a bunch of people on Identica actually went and says, no, you've got to try K9, it's actually even better. So that's the only reason I'm thinking it wasn't the default app.
It was it wasn't the default app, but I think it was forked from the original email app on Android. I think that's how it came about.
Sorry. Right, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, and that email app in a Google Ship phone, which is obviously all you got in the early days of Android with the G1, I think email app was separate from Gmail. I think there were two distinct things. So I might, when I said the first thing I said, I might have been wrong, but it certainly was derived from one of the first email apps that came out on Android. Anyway, we digress massively, but yes. So yeah, andstatus, yeah, give it a try. If you're a long-time Mustard user like me, I do recommend that you give it a try.
Very good. Right then, so let's have another tune, and this is "I'm Still Breathing" by Kelly Allyn.
To think that hell would freeze if you ever did me wrong. And it must be a record low down there. I used to think the sun would never shine again if I woke up and found you didn't care. Well, I felt my world tremble, but the sky didn't fall. Looks like I'm gonna live through losing you after all. I'm still breathing, my heart's still beating. Never thought I would survive losing you, but I'm still alive. Don't you worry, everything's gonna be alright. I'll be just fine. I'm still breathing. Think it was your love that kept me alive. You were my reason for existing, but I put you somewhere in the corner of my mind. So nowadays I barely know you're missing. Well, I thought losing you would be the death of me, and I wish you were right now so you could see I'm still breathing, my heart's still beating. Never thought I would survive losing you, but I'm alive. Don't you worry, everything's gonna be alright. I'll be just fine. I'm still breathing. thought I would survive losing you, but I'm alive. Don't you worry, everything's gonna be alright. I'll be just fine. I'm still breathing. I'm still breathing. I used to think that hell would freeze if you ever did me wrong.
Welcome back. Well, so next we are going to hear from Kevie about an RSS reading app called Liferea. Have I said that correctly?
Yes, as far as I say, you said it the same way I say it. So this one actually advertises itself as an RSS and podcast reader. So podcatcher, should I say. And as a reader for RSS clients, as a reader for RSS feeds and just looking at stories, it worked really well. It was easy to structure the RSS feeds, and you could lay them out pretty much any way you wanted. Folders could be added really easily by just right-click, add a folder. You can use drag and drop techniques, and you could choose basically to search within a folder structure. So, for example, what I mean is if you made a folder called tech, clicked on it, and then you could see all your tech stories. And by default, the order was in the newest first, so in the order they've just recently arrived, so newest to the top. But then let's just say within that you might have a Linux folder. So again, click on that, and instead of getting all the tech stuff, you get all your Linux news. And then maybe if you're a real suffered from OCD, or you just like things extremely well organized, you could maybe have folders like so Debian, Fedora, OpenSUSE, etc., Slackware, and each of these could be clicked on. So, and the other thing I did notice, and this I've had this issues with RSS readers before in the past, is that yeah, they structure everything quite nicely, but they certainly do render very well. I mean, that's one thing that I did like. They rendered almost as if you were not quite as good as a browser, but a lot better than most of the default settings that I'd seen for the many RSS readers. Updates can be set, and by default, the setting is once a day, and I was thinking, nah, that's too infrequent for my liking. So, I mean, overall, a very positive start. So, any questions in these early stages?
No, not so far. Please carry on.
Right, very good. That was all kind of clear. I was a bit worried with that folder part that I was going to get all muddled up, but that got there. The one thing, this is where things kind of maybe go down a hill a wee bit. So initially it was good. Searching is not the easiest thing, or should I say it's not very user-friendly. If you searched for something that was in the headline of the or the article, etc., then it would work, but it had to be an exact thing. So if you typed in, for example, just say you wanted something and it was maybe Linux. If you typed in Linux, just Linux, and hit return, it would only come back with stuff where Linux is there with a lower case. You had to actually have a complete case match, which actually annoyed me a wee bit. When it came to actually searching for stuff in descriptions, it was kind of hit and miss. Sometimes it seemed to pick them up, other times it just seemed to bypass them, which I kind of put it to the test a few times. And I subscribed to Torrent Freak, and there was one which mentioned the turtles. So I typed in turtles, and it came back null. And then I typed in, it was Ninja Turtles, so I typed in Ninja. And that one came a search, and I'm going, that's really odd. So that was a wee bit strange. If you decided you want to search for, let's just say I type in Torrent Freak, because I subscribe to that, it will not search the title of your, the feed you're subscribed to. So if you type in Torrent Freak, it would only come up in something where the word Torrent Freak might come up. So it might actually only come up on a different RSS feed that might have an article about Torrent Freak, if you kind of get what I mean. Have I made that clear as mud?
No, I'm with you.
Right, so that was one thing. Now, it's also pointed out that it was a podcatcher as well, and I thought, well, to be honest, I really like Gpodder, so I thought this is going to take something special for me to leave it. And it does play well enough, right, for getting them, listening to them. Listening is really good, actually, because it was played instantly. It didn't seem to say, right, wait 2 minutes till I download the thing and then play. Then it played them, not a problem. But I imagine if you're like me, you probably want to download your podcasts onto a kind of media player. Plays the podcast out of the box fine, but click on download, and it gave me an error message about the download module is not installed. And I'm going, what? So after having a wee look and digging around, it says, somebody said to me, try this on an online forum. And I said, okay, but hidden quite well deep into preferences. So you had to go to preferences, then you had to go to backends, then modules, and then you found downloading in there. And it says, on the backends, it says Liferea uses SteadyFlow to download. I thought, okay, that's fine, let's hit SteadyFlow. Tried hitting SteadyFlow. No searches in the repos. Okay, looked it up, SteadyFlow Debian. Yes, it's there, but it was an outdated package and it wouldn't let me install because it wanted a specific version. It didn't just want this or more, it wanted a specific version. I thought, well, I'm not going to downgrade that version just to get this to work. The other option was gwget. Couldn't get that installed. It kept on wanting crazy dependencies. And the last one was kget, which was in the repos, but when I installed it, it more or less wanted to install half a KDE desktop. And I'm going, this is a bit much just to get a download for a podcatcher. So after multiple attempts of attempting to download the source code of SteadyFlow and gwget, I just gave up. And I was really getting a bunch of fails. I was getting frustrated. And I just thought, well, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to download podcasts. This really isn't worth the effort. So, which was a shame because I actually didn't mind it. The search, okay, I could probably live with. But not for a podcatcher to not be able to download the podcasts themselves, then it certainly was a massive fail on that part. But overall, I did find a useful tool, but it wasn't for me. I mean, I use iStuff for which is Thunderbird unbranded version. I use that for my RSS feeds as well as my emails. So it was going to take quite a bit for me to move out just because it's so handy. As I said before, I love Gpodder. There's just something perfectly nice. They've just hit the nail on the head for me. I like it. So, and I didn't find it better than them. Although one thing I will say, and I think I mentioned this earlier, it's probably been one of the nicest ways of rendering images that I've seen from an RSS reader. It really does. It's not quite as nice as a browser window rendering, but it's almost there. So it has good points, has bad points. Certainly another great point is just how customizable it is, where you can locate everything. One thing I will say is it came with a heck of a lot of suggested things. It was like, for example, but there was well over 100 feeds there. And to be honest, I think that was a bit overkill. Do I really need 100 feeds? Because I already had the ones I wanted. I wasn't really going to go down and start reading each and every one. I'd still be reading probably the first page today if I'd looked at all of them. But overall, it had its nice parts, but it didn't convince me enough to switch over from either iStuff or from Gpodder.
All right. Okay. So I mean, it sounds like it's got some nice points, but a few important things like the search being case sensitive doesn't sound great. A few important points are a bit lacking. When you mentioned the problem getting kget, I do remember hearing somewhere that Liferea does pull in a lot of KDE dependencies in the first place. Do you think it is developed with KDE in mind, or the developer happened to be a bit KDE oriented?
Well, I don't think so, purely because I couldn't find it on the repo, so I did it from source. And I think I only installed 2 dependencies. And I mean, this is actually a relatively fresh install of Debian with the Mate desktop, so I've not got any real Qt or KDE stuff. In my old Debian system on the old computer, yeah, it wouldn't have surprised me if I had most of the stuff anyway, because I was always trying things, but I thought I want to keep this one a bit cleaner. Whereas the last one ended up having a huge amount of different dependencies installed for different things, and probably half of them weren't being used. So maybe it might have been at the end, but I think maybe I don't really know what I should have looked, but I don't know what the update of this is. I mean, at the end of the day, they've made an RSS reader that is okay. I mean, the case sensitive searches are annoying. The inconsistent searches are a bit annoying, to be honest. I don't like inconsistency. It shouldn't happen to me in programming in any form of computer. It's not a human. It should be down to human error. But the not being able to download was the real deal breaker for me. Not being able to download a podcast. And what was frustrating was it was all there. You could listen to it. You could stream it. It all showed you the stuff there. It just didn't download it at all.
Well, I mean, in KDE, the sort of the default KDE application is Aggregator with a K instead of the G's. So I wish I would stop doing that. So I mean, I guess in KDE that's what some people would go for. Personally, I never use RSS in the desktop. I'm always using it on my phone, and I use TTRSS and have a web server. So that if I did want to use it on the desktop, I would just log into the web server. So yeah, it sounds interesting. It sounds a bit like a KDE app in that it does a few things rather neatly, but sort of falls down in some of the basics. So that's an experience with a lot of the KDE stuff, and including kget, which is quite nice. But I don't really. I do use kget occasionally, but I don't find it all that useful in the overall scheme of things.
No, what I might do is the next time I install, so it won't be that long probably before I install a KDE distro. If I remember, I'll try and install it and see how it runs then. But right now, I just wasn't willing to install the KDE desktop, essentially.
Yes, I mean, that's some of the KDE things are made. The whole point of KDE is to be integrated, isn't it? So it doesn't surprise me that kget does it. You do end up doing that. I mean, that's with a lot of the KDE apps, you end up with that, don't you?
Right, let's go on with this, and this is 2419 by Between Horizons.
Cause this is who I am.
Well, welcome back to the last part of the show, some feedback. Well, I don't think we've had an awful lot of feedback over the festive season. People have been too busy quaffing their drinks and munching their mince pies and then celebrating the new year. But I've typed TuxJam into andstatus, and it quickly came back with a bunch of hits. So there's the most recent one is this enigmatic message from @X11R5. Careful, Ken. Back when @Kevie flew TuxJam solo, I suggested that to @MV for #NEF. We don't know what that means. And then there were some comments about us streaming TuxJam directly to Netflix. I don't remember the context for that. Do you, Kevie?
Netflix? No, I don't remember that one.
Hang on. It's because yes, I had said as a joke, why does the Netflix app need access to the phone's microphone? In fact, that's not a joke. I actually did ask. Netflix app on my phone did ask for access to the phone's microphone, which I thought was a bit annoying. And then you said, so we can stream TuxJam directly to Netflix, which
okay,
then liked.
Right, yes. Now I'd forgotten about that. Yes.
And then JC Active, at quitter.ac favorited our Christmas episode. Yes, and then Chalcolom criticised the lyrics to Auld Lang Syne. I guess it was some reference to the Scots in that, with him being from Northern Ireland, where they all speak just fine and proper English.
Yes, indeed. But no, we do thank Chalcolom for all this he does. He's one of our regular comments and does actually leave us feedback, etc. So it is nice that he's still kept with us. Yeah, we must be doing something right. We've actually managed to have a listener that stayed with us for most of the show's era.
Indeed, yes, and we'd like to thank our listener very much for sticking with us.
Yes, indeed. It's good to have you on board. You keep listening, and we'll keep making the show. Yeah, well, actually, it appears that we actually don't do terribly badly with listeners, because on top of the downloads for the podcast, now, okay, I know this is not an awful lot when it comes to the grand scheme of things, right? But we're not expecting to kind of rival the Beatles in listens. We're not even expected to, rival a Beatle in listens, far less all four of them put together. But we have actually I've started uploading the podcast to SoundCloud, and just type in TuxJam, you'll get there. So there's only two. There was TuxJam 46 and TuxJam 47. Just go to SoundCloud and type in TuxJam, and we seem to have had about one track has got 22 listens, the other track has got 17 listens. So that's 17 more people who hadn't listened to it before. I'm also uploading them to Vimeo. Again, just type in TuxJam. There is no actual video. You won't see myself or Andrew. It is just literally the TuxJam logo that is on while this audio is playing. But it's another way to listen. So that one seems to have about 5 listens. So it's not exactly setting the world alight, but hey, it's more than you got. But of course, you can go ahead to the website and actually subscribe to the podcast. Go ahead there. It's unseenstudio.co.uk, and you can get us directly from there. Then we can't spy on you, because we don't actually we're not the webmasters for the site, so we don't actually get the details on downloads. I don't even know where to get them, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, well. I mean, yes, we're not aiming for Beatle level popularity, but we do aspire to reaching sort of Ringo Starr level at the very least one day.
Yes, that is our aim. Yes, we're gunning for your Ringo. Mind you, he did do that series of Thomas the Tank. I think we're aiming too high.
Yeah, that's true. Although, to be fair, was it Michael Angelis who took over from Ringo? Actually, to most people, he now sounds more like to most people, that's what Ringo sounds like. They think Michael Angelis is actually Ringo, and when they hear the real Ringo, they think, why doesn't he sound as good as he does in Thomas the Tank Engine?
Yeah, well, we can aim for that then. Yeah, okay then. We're back on track. We're gunning for Ringo again. Right then. Yeah. So we're active on social media. So go to at Unseen Studio on Twitter and join diaspora.com, and also on GNU Social, and that's on micro.fragdev.com. But those are just announcements. If you want to yarn to us, then I'm at Kevie on micro.fragdev.com. I am on Twitter. I'm at Kevie49. And now I am also, I've changed pods because my pod closed down again. I'm getting sick of this, right? But I am now on Socializer. I'm Kevie at socializer.cc, I think it is, but I'm going to have to check this. And while I'm doing that, Andrew, you can give out your contact details.
Indeed, I am mcnalu, MCNALU, on same place as Kevie, micro.fragdev.com, or you can find me as mcnalu on Twitter. And if you want to read stuff that I write, you can find that I've got a blog at blog.mcnalu.net.
And it is socializer.cc, and socializer is spelled with a Z in it. You can email the show. We do have an email, believe it or not. We do have an email, and it still works, apparently, but nobody ever uses it, apart from people spamming us about fake Rolex watches. Ugh. But it's TuxJam at unseenstudio.co.uk. Do we have anything else, or is that us for this episode?
No, that's us for this episode, I think. And if you don't want to do any of those other things, those high-tech methods, you could try sending a carrier pigeon to us as well. That would be quite nice. I'd quite like to get a pigeon.
Yeah, I really think you should send that to Andrew. I think it would probably be cruelty to send a pigeon up this far. I don't think it would survive the journey.
Yeah, you've told me about hunting, and Lewis might get shot down.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, pretty much. Right then. So, well, that's all that's left for us. So it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me, and I shall introduce the final track, which you can do your zizzing and falling asleep to. It's called Fiery the Angels Fell by Prettyhowtown. I got it off Magnitude, and it's a bit of electronica, all recorded the old-fashioned way, no digital nonsense, a load of analog synths recorded stuff in a sort of live but recorded fashion.
You've been listening to a member of the Unseen Studio Podcast Network.